and Primera Solution webinar organized by Hewlett Packard Enterprise and Emitype. Thank you all for joining us today. Hope everyone is staying safe and taking care of themselves. My name is Laila and I will be your host for this webinar. We are gathered here today to gain insight and get introduced to HPE Premium HCI and Primera solutions. To shed light on this, we have esteemed speakers present here with us today. From the Emitype team, we have Mr. Muhammad Nimr, Head of Sales, and from HPE, we have Mr. Ahmed Bakr, Storage Specialist. Thank you for the great introduction, Mr. Muhammad. Now we may turn to Mr. Ahmed Bakr to give us an overview on HCI and Primera storage offered by HPE along with explanations on its features and InfoSci. Before I hand this over to Mr. Ahmed, please note if you have any questions during the session, you can send them across to me on the chat and I will take it up with the speakers. At the end of the session, we will also open the discussion and you may ask questions directly if needed. If anybody is facing any issues at their end, please drop me a word or click on the raise hand icon displayed next to your name and we will attend to you. I would like to thank everyone once again for taking the time out to be with us today. Looking forward to having a fruitful and productive session. Over to you, Mr. Ahmed.
Hello, everyone. This is Ahmed Bakr. First of all, can you hear me? Is my voice? Can you hear my voice? Is it good? The quality of the voice? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you properly.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen as well.
Great. Okay. So my name is Ahmed Bakr. I'm working for HPE as a solution architect, pre-sales, storage specialist. And today I'm going to discuss two products: the hyperconverged infrastructure solution from HPE and the HPE Primera enterprise storage. We'll start up with the HCI, but please note that those sessions are they are an overall. They're an overview of the products. If more details are needed, we can have independent individual sessions with each customer, with much more in depth of each of the products that we are covering up in this session. Now, in today's reality, we see that the customers, IT admins, and VM admins, they're struggling with the business needs. They have continuous support to the infrastructure, firefighting the issues that comes up, along with the demands, more and more demands that comes up from the business, with more applications and more complexities adding it to the entire infrastructure. Now, not to mention as well, when it comes to a multi-vendor environment, you have the IT team would be struggling with the vendors, where each vendor would start pinpointing on the other vendor that the issue is not with his equipment, it's more rather with the other vendor. So this drags up the support, drags up the complexity of the environment, and this of course minimizes the productivity of the customer in overall. So in such reality, in such situation, we see that software defined or hard to define previously founded hard to define, confined, or software defined environments are no longer sufficient. We see that AI driven has become necessity for such complex environments, where it will have all the features of software defined, as well as added features as self-healing, predictive analytics, where it should be able to predict issues before occurring in order to prevent them from happening, in order to avoid business losing precious time and precious operations, which would affect their income in overall. Moreover, it should be self-optimizing, meaning that it should optimize on its own. There is no more. There shouldn't be human intervention for tuning the environment or optimizing it. So for this, we have HPE InfoSight, our product, which is a predictive analytics, artificial intelligence engine that provides global intelligence for HPE products. And this product has been there for a decade. It's been collecting data and analyzing those data. We have collected for the past decade. We have collected around 1.25 trillion data points. We have collected and analyzed those informations, and our engineers, our developers, engineers with AI engine have created, with the help of the Enfusa, have created machine learning algorithms. They have mastered and they have achieved high levels with machine learning algorithms, which enables us not to look only on our hardware, but to look at the entire infrastructure. That is, we can go to the hypervisor level. We can go into VMs. We can go into the networking. We can go into the storage within our environment, and this goes beyond the limitation of the hardware. So, in what we mean here is that in case you have an issue with with the performance of a specific VM. Now, if in a normal situation, you the support, the operation team, the management, IT management, they would need to log a ticket with the support team of different vendors. For example, if you have your VMers and servers from different vendor, and your storage is, let's say, from any other vendor, they have to look ticket with each one, and then each one would require his own logs, and the analysis the analysis would drag on for some time in order to find out the solution. With the Infosite, it will automatically pinpoint the root cause of the performance issue, regardless of what the VMware is, or what the hardware of the VMware is residing on. Or it can look at the networking. It can notify that you're facing packet drops on a specific port. And it gives the recommendations that in order for the IT admin to do the fixing of the situation. And if it is within the storage or within the HP hardware, it can automatically fix up uh, the issue. So this way of dealing helps greatly reduce the supportability window with customer, with vendor. With this in mind, it can also recommend optimization features, and you can say load balance all the hosts if it's VMware, and avoid having any hosts underutilized. Now, coming with InfoSights, which is covering the entire portfolio of HP, we have our two HCI solutions. We have HP Simplicity being the simplest and most complete HCI solution, and we have the new HP Nimble DSCI, which we call disaggregated HCI, and we call HCI 2.0. Now, each one of those, they serve a different sector and different workloads, and all of those are being under HP InfoSight, under the umbrella of HP InfoSight, for the global intelligence awareness and the AI-driven environments. Starting with Simplicity. Now, Simplicity, as we mentioned, is the simplest and most complete SA solution. It's intelligently simple, hyper efficient, and edge optimized. We'll come in each of those points later on with the session during the presentation. Now, the simplicity of this product was designed from day one, so it can be managed by anyone who knows VMware. So if you already know how to run VMware, you already know 90% of the product, because the interface you manage, in order for you to manage the SCI Simplicity SCI, all you would need is a vCenter, which has a plugin installed in it, a Simplicity plugin, and from there you can manage the entire environment. So from this we also offer with Simplicity an all-in-one system, where we can collapse 10 devices, functionalities of 10 devices that usually you would require in a traditional environment. Those functionalities are being integrated within the Simplicity solution. On the next slide, when it comes, I'll show you those 10 devices, and we'll discuss a little more about them. Moreover, it has a global unified management, meaning that with a single interface, you can manage multiple sites at a global environment, where it means you can have one site in US, a second site in Europe, a third in Japan. You can still manage all of them from a single interface, being vCenter at that point. We also offer a zero time upgrades. There is no downtime in the solution, whether you want to upgrade any of your components. You can do this upgrade with zero downtime. You can have, we have the solution as well built with InfoSight. It will automate tunings. So there is only for individual manual tuning of the environment. The environment will automatically tune itself to the requirements. It will automatically auto balance. So it is very well optimized across the environment. Now, two more features we added with the new releases of SimpliVity is that you can have one-click upgrades with zero downtime. Instead of doing each upgrade on its own, you can have one-click upgrades, and it will upgrade the entire cluster. We'll show another slide which will discuss a little bit more about this. And then we have introduced SimpliVity into within the global intelligence within HPE InfoSight for case automation and predictive analytics algorithms. Now, those are the 10 devices that can be integrated. Functionality of those can be integrated within the SimpliVity solution. The most important one of them is the backup, integrated backup, which is truly an independent backup, which can serve the needs of the customer needs and avoid them from buying an expensive backup solution given like Veeam or Commvault or the other solutions. Not to mention that even if the customer have a demand that he would need to go with those backup vendors, he can still work with both backup solutions to benefit as well from our backup solution. More of that later on with the slides to show you the benefit and the strength of the integrated backup solution in SimpliVity. Now, with all of this mentioned all of this, with the minimization of the footprint, that means that there'll be a minimization of support contracts. That means there'll be a minimization of management requirements for the environment. So overall, it will lower the overall cost of the IT operations. Now, with InfoSight, the predictive analytics of InfoSight, it can give the customer the ability to predict the future capacity. So, for example, it can tell them that within 90 days you'll be running out of capacity. So consider placing an order today, or expanding your storage at the time being in order to avoid the full capacity. It can look as well, as we mentioned, at cases where issues is about to happen. It will try to avoid those situations by predicting a scenario that would cause an issue and suggesting a recommendation for the admins in order to avoid this from happening. As you mentioned, it has a global visibility through InfoSight as well. Through InfoSight you can see all the VMs, and you can see the noisy VMs in a diagram to show which VMs are being noisy, which one are most consuming IOPS, which one is least consuming, and how to optimize those. It also has a recommendation for that. Tickets are being automatically created. Now, to note please that InfoSight will automatically try to fix the issue on its own. So if the issue is fixed, the case will be created and automatically closed by InfoSight. And for some of our products like DSCI, which has nimble storage, we saw that 86% of our tickets that usually used to be created manually are created automatically and closed automatically by InfoSight. Now, the one-click upgrades in SimpliVity has been improved dramatically. Now, as you know, you would have a cluster within VMware, and you have VMs running, serving workload. And once you need to upgrade, you have to go in a very, let's say, planned upgrade. You would need to make sure your firmware is upgraded to a version supported by the hypervisor drivers, and then you need to do the upgrade one node at a time, and you to evacuate the VMs from one node to the other node, and so on until you upgrade the entire nodes. Now, with SimpliVity, one-click upgrade, it will not only upgrade the SimpliVity software, it will upgrade the firmware of the server to a version supported by the SimpliVity software as well as a hypervisor, and it will also upgrade the hypervisor, the hypervisor version. All of this is done with a single click. So once you say upgrade, it will do the entire all of those tasks that usually will take weeks. It can do it within minutes, or within, let's say, maximum 10 to 30 minutes maximum. Now, a main feature in simplicity is that it is hyper efficient. It has a data efficiency of 90% guaranteed, meaning that with our data reduction mechanism, with our data reduction algorithms and mechanism, we guarantee that we actually guarantee that you will have 10 terabytes worth of data you'll be able to store them on a 1 terabyte physical storage. And this is a written guarantee that you'll get from HP, given that you use storage, you use it for storage as well as backup within simplicity. Now, for the efficiency as well, we have within the backup software, we have integrated backup software within simplicity. We guarantee for you that you can take one terabyte VM backup and restoration within 60 seconds. So those of you who have used backup software like Veeam, Commvault, Data Protector, all of those, Veritas, you know that 1 terabyte VM, if you want to take a backup in a normal situation, would take at least an hour. Restoration would take maybe even more. So with this, we guarantee that you'll have 1 terabyte VM, being restored within 60 seconds. As well as the efficiency we mentioned earlier, we have the all-in-one, the 10 devices collapsing. You have functionalities being delivered by Simplicity solution. Now, to back this up, we have the Forrester and Tech Validate third-party companies that they did the survey, and they found that in average, customers who are using Simplicity have 47-to-1 efficiency. Now, we are guaranteeing 10-to-1 between storage and backup, and our data reduction is considered as always on inline. So no matter what happens, the data reduction will be always on the system, and it is an inline. It's an inline process, which meaning that the deduplication process will take care before committing to any disk. Now, in our way that we designed our simplicity is that the data reduction process, which is a very high intensive computing and I/O operation, will not affect at all the storage, will not affect the performance of the server. We have two family brands in simplicity, one being hardware optimized, and the second being software optimized. The hardware accelerated card, the hardware optimized, comes with a physical card we call OmniStack Accelerator card, which offloads the data reduction functionality from the server. It comes with its own processor, its own RAM, its own capacitors, that maintains this functionality as an independent card. So with this task, it offloads the entire load of the CPU and the server compute resources. Now, currently, this card is being developed into a new model. We are under development. It should be released by the end of 2020 or beginning of 2021, with the higher memory and with the DDR4 memory and with the higher CPU resources. Now, the second approach is a software optimizer. This was initially designed to serve customers who would not have much load on the I/O, let's say on the storage, but rather have more requirement on the compute and on the connectivity. Let's say, for example, if you have a VDI environment where VDI, most of the data will be deduped, so there wouldn't be much data hitting the disks, but rather you would need much more compute resources. And if it's, let's say, if you want to add a GPU, it gives you more option by allowing you to add two GPU cards per server, in order to increase the number of users per server. Now, things went smoother later on. Technologies advanced, algorithms, data reduction algorithms have been advanced, and we have been pushing even the software optimized for the general workload as well, and for the intensive workload with databases as the workload. With this, we're planning to introduce as well in the near future the new OCA card for the software optimized as well. Now, coming to the backup and disaster recovery solutions with HP. Now, if you're going to take it in a normal situation with a traditional environment, you would need everything on the left side of the slide. You would need everything to be there, and everything would cost a solution on its own and would cost a license for it. You would need a third party for a backup operation. You would need the replication. For example, if you go with VMware, you need to pay for the SRM licenses. Then you would need one optimization in order to reduce the bandwidth utilization between the main site and the DR site. All of those are being provided with SimpliVity, which offers an all-inclusive license approach. So once you buy SimpliVity, all features that SimpliVity offers will be there. We don't have individual licenses for individual features. So it has a backup, a built-in backup, as we mentioned. It has a replication mechanism to the second site, which is very unique. Since SimpliVity, it has a global view of the entire sites, of the multiple sites that you have. Yes, they are all managed by a single vCenter, which can be as well linked in a linked mode to a second vCenter for disaster recovery, but still they are aware of everything and over there. With a file system which is globally aware, we know where data resides on which server. So once we do the replication, we only replicate unique data blocks. Now we're not talking about incremental replication. We are talking at the initial phase. So if I want to replicate VM1 to the second site, now, usually with SimpliVity, you'll have each site will operate as a production and as a DR for the other sites. So whatever VMs are already running on the second site, it would be aware of what data is residing there. So once we move the VM, which is at the initial phase first, it will only send the data which is missing from the second storage over there. The rest are already deduped, and the pointers would be upgraded, would be refreshed to point to the same data block. So this is what we mean with an integrated one optimizer. We have a customer in US. He have 32 sites, and he's using normal WAN interconnectivity. He's not having any dedicated links between his sites. Now, more into the backup. With the backup solution now, we can offer a complete end-to-end backup software solution where you can start a backup from the edge, let's say from your remote branches or edge, up to the core, up to the main site. And then from the main site, you can take the backup into the store once appliance or for a much longer retention. Now, this is an important point to mention here, is that backup software, SimpliVity backup software has three options actually. First, you can take a local backup, which will be stored on the same servers, and this will offer an extreme fast restoration point. A second is the remote backup, where you can send it to a remote site, to a second site, running SimpliVity. And the third is that I can send it for archival reasons, for archival purposes. And if I want to retain it for, let's say, weeks or months retain my backup, it would be expensive to do so on the SSD disks for a very long retention. So we can do this with store1, which is running nearline disks, which has a very high deduplications and compression ratios. So we can store them over store1 utilizing the Catalyst protocol, store1's Catalyst protocol, which protects from ransomware attacks. Now, so what we suggest for customers is that to retain a local backup, a local copy on the SimpliVity nodes with a retention of 1 or 2 days. This will offer you the 60 seconds restoration guarantee, as well as, and then whatever, if you want to take a weekly backup or a monthly backup, retain it for a year or retain it for several months, then at that time we'll utilize the store1 for this retention. Now, by 2021, we're expecting by 2021 we'll be adding the feature for sending our data to the cloud, our backup. So SimpliVity backup will be able to utilize the cloud bank storage feature service and license from store1's licensed product from store1's, and will enable you to utilize the object storage in Azure or AWS and send the backup directly to those backup softwares, to those public providers. Now, our solution is very much optimized for the edge as well as for the main site. You can start up with a 2-node high availability. Now, if you compare it with any other HCI solution over there, in the market, you would see that they would have a minimum recommendation of 3 nodes. And let's say and with those 3 nodes, you'll have a single point of failure protection. So let's say if one disk fails, you're protected. If the second disk fails, you might go with data loss. If one node fails, it's protected. The second disk fails, after that node failure, you start losing data. In SimpliVity, we offer you with 2 nodes. We would offer you at least 2 points of failure. And with our hardware accelerated model, we offer you three points of failure protection tolerance within 2 nodes. When it comes to the edge, if some customers, they would say that I do not request high availability on my edge. Since I would have I have an edge, I can send a remote backup to my main site. So I would need to cut costs. I wouldn't want high availability on the edge. At that time, we can offer him that he can run his environment with a single node. There is no need to have a two node if high availability is not required. Now, even the main site, for customers who have low requirements, they don't have very high, 2 nodes can be more than sufficient for them to run the entire environment, keeping in mind that we are offering at least one disk tolerance per server, and we can, as well as that, we can tolerate a single node failure. Now, SimpliVity as a solution is being able to connect to the cloud, especially with Google Anthos, where VMs can run as a cloud native apps or as VMs. Not to mention, just to mention let's put the laser point. Okay, not to mention that now that HPE GreenLake is being offered as well as SimpliVity, as well as with all our HPE hardware. During the Primera session, I'm going to talk about more about HPE GreenLake and how it can be used as a service, exactly as you would go with Azure or AWS public provider. You can have the same experience while maintaining those hardware within your environment. So this brings me to the end of the SimpliVity session. If you have any questions. Okay, I can see one question from Mr. Hakan. Hopefully, I pronounce your name correctly. See, the solution, the pricing of the storage depends on the requirements. So once we get the requirements and design a solution, we'd be able to give you a very much appropriate pricing. It differs from requirement to requirement. The financial options that we have, one of them, as I mentioned, GreenLake, which we discussed in the Primera session. As well, we have financial approaches, financial methodology in order to fulfill the payments, and this can be discussed on one-to-one with our account managers. What VDI software is supported in SimpliVity? Every VDI software is supported with SimpliVity. Also, the most used now is VMware and Citrix. They are both supported. If you want, you can unmute yourself, and if you want to ask any direct questions.
If anybody would like to ask questions, you may send it to me or on chat or click on the raise hand icon so that we can directly ask your question to our speakers.
Okay, in this case, since there is no questions, let's move to the second session. The Nimble Storage DSCI, disaggregated hyperconverged solution infrastructure from HPE. Now, I mentioned earlier that both of those products, they have different sector to serve. Usually, simplicity would be more fit for customers who would have a very predictable growth scenario, that they know that within 3 years, or within 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, I'll be having this amount of capacity at the start, and I'm gonna grow with 10%, 20%. They have a very clear, predictable growth. Now, this is where simplicity would perfectly serve them. Or they have, let's say, as well, they would have an environment, let's say, a workload that dedupes very well. So we're not talking about imaging and about file server that doesn't dedupe very well. So this is where simplicity would thrive. Or if they have multiple sites, you have, for example, I have a customer who have around 90 chips, and he wants to place on each server storage with an HA environment, with 2 servers with a storage for HA environment. Now, this simplicity would be an extremely excellent approach for him, because it can serve this customer with multiple sites without the need of the complexity of the storage and the server. So it relieves him from this complexity, and gives him the easiness simplicity of managing. Now, with HCI, now, what if the customer, they comes up with that? Some customer, they have a requirement that they say that I have an unpredictable growth. I don't know. Maybe after 6 months, I will have a new requirement that will ask me to increase capacity, storage tier only, or maybe it comes compute on its own. So with the traditional approach of HCI, each time I need to upgrade or need to scale, I have to add another node which will have a storage and will have compute and processors. And this is perfectly fit for someone who has a very predictable growth. But in case someone who doesn't have this, or if customer who would like to have the HCI experience while having a workload that doesn't dedupe very well, that doesn't have that deduplication mechanism, or if he has a requirement in petabytes. Let's say my environment in petabytes. If you want to install petabytes in a traditional environment, you would fill up 4 or 5 racks in order to serve the petabytes approach. Now, this can all be solved in a solution like disaggregated HCI solution from HPE. So the solution itself is as well intelligent simple, and this intelligence in the solution comes from InfoSight. It has extreme resiliency and is very much scalable, where you can scale out compute on its own and you can scale out storage on its own. Now, HCI itself, not to point out, the HCI is more of an experience. People and customers, they would go with HCI in order for them to have a very smooth experience in their day-to-day operation. They need to reduce complexities. They need to have everything being automated. So this is SCI. So our solutions, SCI provides this form of experience, and on top of that, we're offering the intelligent and AI-driven environments with our InfoSight. So the nimble DSCI solution, let's call it DSCI for short. It can be deployed. So once you rack the servers and the cabling is done, and all requirements by the IP address host names are all available, the system can be ready to serve VMs within 15 minutes. It's very simple to scale. With zero downtime, you can scale to whatever load without affecting any of your current any of your current environment. It is very simple to manage as well. DSCI is a plugin with the vCenter. It is managed thoroughly through vCenter. So knowing vCenter, you immediately know 90% of the SCI solution. And trust me, with a few hours with our detailed documentation, they're more than ready to go with to be fully capable of managing the DSCI solution. And as well with our InfoSight, very simple to support. Now, let me point out that the Nimble storage, eventually HP InfoSight, it was acquired with Nimble from HP in 2017. So Nimble has been there with InfoSight for 10 years. And saying this, Nimble is the most integrated product we have with InfoSight. It has engines. That will allow you to predict your capacity. When will it be consumed? It has engines for customers to enable them to check if they need to add another workload. Let's say if you currently have SQL and general application. Now tomorrow a request comes in from your management that we need to add an Oracle load, an Oracle database. So you can go to this tool, to this InfoSite with this engine that is provided by InfoSite, and you can plug in your requirements that I need Oracle with this capacity. That's all. And then if InfoSite would look at its database, we'll see that from over a decade, we have collected the people using Oracle over Nimble. We know that on average, you'll have let's say X amount of IOPS. You'll have expected data reduction of Y, and then it can tell you whether your current storage will be able to handle it or not. So if it is able to handle it, then you can go ahead and deploy it without referring back to anyone from HPE. Or in that case, if it doesn't, it's not capable of holding this storage, this new workload, it will give you a recommendation to what level you need to upgrade to in order to be optimized when it is cost. So you'll be very much optimized. So once you go with HPE, they're telling that I need the storage. You'll have a very strong background and information that that my requirement to be served by this model, by this capacity. Now this over here, we can see that vCenter manages all through everything. Once a user wants to create a data store, for example, he just do it through vCenter. The DSS solution will create a volume from the storage, and that will be presented as an iSCSI to the hosts, and also be formatted as a VMFS and presented to the hosts. So everything is done simply and easily through vCenter. There is no need whatsoever to log into the storage separately or onto the server separately. You can do everything through vCenter. Now, about the resiliency, about the product, about the Nimble storage, about DSI and overall, you get a guaranteed 6 nines availability. It offers a sub-millisecond latency, which could reach up to 200 as low as 200 microseconds. It can tolerate 3 disk failures, and even with an all-flash model, you could be able to tolerate a fourth failure, because there is an integrated spare disk over there. So once the first disk fails, the integrated spare disk will be utilized, and then you can lose another 3 disks afterwards again at that point. So it protects you in overall simultaneous failure 3 disks, and if there is, let's say, in between them there is some time it can tolerate 4 disks. And in addition to that, after the failure of 3 disks, the system would check at the sector level. So if a sector is damaged internally within a disk, to prevent marking the disk as a failure, we try to repair it through a parity level internally in each disk for the sectors. If it is repairable, then your disk is back functioning. Otherwise, the disk will be considered as a failure. Now, the Nimble product is very well integrated with all our backup, with most backup vendors over there. The most esteemed of them, Veeam, Commvault, Data Protector, Veritas, and with this they utilize the hardware snapshot mechanism from the HCI, and with that they can create backup. So the first backup option would be to take a hardware snapshot and retain it on the storage itself. This is used to have this is used for having a very faster recovery operation compared than having it being copied back from the backup appliance. As well, as we mentioned, as SimpliVity in Nimble, we have all inclusive, so you don't have to pay any extra license for the data reduction, for encryption. All of those are being given at the price of the storage. And encryption as well is being it will be done inline, which is meant it's done before committing to disks. Because another approach with this, which we call post-processing data reduction, especially, that it will commit to disks at the first time, acknowledges to the customer, and then after committing to disk, it will do the data reduction. In Nimble storage, we do not do that. In Nimble and DCI, which relies on Nimble, and the SimpliVity, we don't do that. We do the things inline in memory. We do it once, and then we commit once to the disks. Now, this is scalability that I was talking about. Now, you can start small with 2 nodes, with a minimum of 2 nodes, and then you can expand as you please, as required, up to 3 nodes, up to 32 nodes. Sorry. Now, for the storage, the first scale you can scale up by adding disks to the chassis itself, which increase capacity. You can upgrade the controllers, upgrade controllers seamlessly and without affecting without affecting the workload and this and the workload being served to the customers to the team. And you can scale up as well by adding disk shelves to the environment. More than this, you can create a cluster of those DSCI storage systems, and this you'll have X4 capability when it comes to IOPS and capacity, which can reach up to 1.6 million IOPS, and you can reach up to 9 petabytes of data of capacity. Now, a second option that comes with HP Nimble is that what we call hybrid HP Cloud Volumes. HP Cloud Volumes is a block storage that resides on HPE cloud data centers, and this is again this is a service. This is a subscription service. It is exactly similar to what you would get from Azure, or you get from AWS, from any public provider. But the beauty about this is that this is a block storage that you can connect to AWS or Azure. So you would let's say buy you would buy a VM, only computational VM from Azure or from AWS, and your data disks are being served through HP Cloud Volume. What you'll benefit from this is that you'll no longer be locked in with a single public cloud provider. See, public cloud providers, they do not charge you anything once you move data into the cloud. But once you try to move data out of the cloud, at that point they will charge you premium. They charge you premium with the egress cost, what is being known as egress cost. With HP Cloud Volume, your data is physically outside the cloud. You can do whatever you like with it. You can disconnect. Let's say if you're working with the AWS, and for some reason you don't like them, you can move to Azure very simply by just disconnecting the cloud volume from Azure, from AWS, building up a VM in Azure, connecting this to the VM. This being said, of course, the AWS and Azure, they are integrated into this, and HP is working with them to deliver this feature. Now, more than this, you can have the replication mechanism into your on-prem DSCI with the cloud volume. So let's say for let's say whatever running on the cloud is considered, you have both let's say the lower performance VMs on the cloud, and you have some of your VMs are running with the higher performance on the on-prem. Now, with the cloud volume, you can have a very much true and a very simple hybrid IT environment where some of your workload can run on the cloud and some can run on the on-prem, and you can seamlessly move applications across those two platforms by simply replicating and reverse replicating data between the cloud volume and the Nimble storage. Again, I need to repeat that cloud volume is a subscription service that you can log into a portal, and you will pay on a monthly basis depending on your usage, depending on the usage of that month. So it can increase, can decrease as it depends as your usage, and there is no contract that will enforce you to have it for a specific time period of time. You can cancel your contract anytime. Now we have a timeless ownership experience with Nimble storage. What we have mentioned with all the scalability, the availability, the 6 nines availability, the guarantee we get from HP. There is no forklift left upgrades. You get the store more guarantee as well with Nimble, which means we'll guarantee with you. So we'll give you a usable capacity, let's say 20 terabytes. And since and given that you'll tell us your workload in detail, that you'll have SQL this amount, Oracle this amount, general application this amount, we can guarantee that this amount of usable capacity will achieve give you 40 terabytes or 60 terabytes of effective capacity. And in case it doesn't, HP will cover the extra capacity free of cost. So this way you will reduce the initial cost of the project, and you'll have a peace of mind that your situation is covered up by the store more guarantee. So if what HP promise it doesn't deliver, you have the right to ask HP, and HP is enforced to give you the extra capacity free of charge, no matter what was the cost. Now, one more thing with Nimble. One more thing with the DSCI is that you have the timeless experience as well, which the time experience support, which means which is a special type of support that you can, after 3 years, within 3 years, or every 3 years, you can upgrade your storage controllers to a newer generation, to a newer generation, free of charge. So let's say now the DSCI is running on Gen 5. Let's say after, within 2 years, now Gen 6 is released. You're entitled to upgrade to Gen 6 controllers without a single, without the need of you paying a single penny, including the services for this upgrade. Now, one of our customers what we won VxRail over is that this customer was going with VxRail, then HPE moved in to offer DSCI solution, and at the end of the day, he cross-checked the price between VxRail and the DSCI solution when he needs to have, we need to expand, we have to scale out his storage by twice the amount, and the amount what DSI was much cheaper than VxRail, and this was the decision was to move to DSCI. Not to mention as well the advantage of Infosite and the global intelligence that you would get with DSCI and you will never get with VxRail or Nutanix or the other vendors. Now this brings me to the end of the DSCI session. If there is any questions. Now, again, just since I'll give you some time to answer, to give your questions, to ask your questions. Now, those are very much overview sessions. If any of those products you feel there is a need for it, we can have a dedicated, deep detailed sessions for each of those products. We can go very technical details. We can have a couple of hours discussing technically. You can have some sort of workshop that would help you, would help us, you and us, to understand your environment more and to select the appropriate solution for you. One more thing, again, in HPE, we are an A to Z vendor, meaning that all of your support is from a single point. So some other vendors that offer storage or a specific, let's say, SAS solution, you'll have to go with multiple vendors in order to benefit from, in order to support your environment. With our case, you're benefiting from a single point of contact support for the entire solution. Not many companies they have this capabilities. Okay, since there are no questions, I'll move forward to the next session we have next, which is Primera storage, our mission critical enterprise storage. Now, in this era, we have businesses and companies, they are trying to accelerate everything, application, data, innovation, in order to achieve more income, and more income, especially in the difficult situations, especially in our situation right now with COVID-19. Everything needs to be accelerated in order in order for the business to benefit more from the operation, the process that they have. Now, this type of situation adds as extreme, let's say, difficulty and burden on the IT admin team, because they have this. It's almost impossible for them to keep up with those business requirements, because this, especially with mission critical application, it becomes, you need an enterprise storage, you need an enterprise infrastructure, and with this it comes complexity. They'll have to constant firefight issues. They have the constant, if some requirement comes in and they need to upgrade the storage or the compute, this upgrade is not simple. Those are very complicated upgrades. It's a project on its own to upgrade the storage you at an enterprise level, especially if you want to upgrade the controllers. So as we mentioned, with this mission critical, it adds more and more burden to the environment, and this leads into the dilemma that for vendors, that they have two choices: either they have a very high end, fast, reliable, but not agile, it's not simple to manage, or they will have something like a public cloud, which is very agile and very simple to create and manage, but it's not as fast or as reliable as an enterprise storage. So they have to choose between one of them. But what if we told you that we can offer you a storage which is enterprise, which has the agility and speed of the public cloud, and you can have it as a service, pay as you go, and it can be on-prem. So you can benefit from all the features of having an on-prem infrastructure, as well as you're paying for your requirements as a service. Now, this is the HP Primera storage, which we're talking about. You can have it on-demand. You can have it as an on-demand experience. You can have it. It is app aware. You can have it in a timeless ownership, similar to the DSCI experience. Now, Primera, as a product, it was built from the data collected from InfoSight. So from the data we collected for 10 years, for a decade, we built up the Primera storage. So it's like Nimble, it's like SimpliVity. It is managed by the InfoSight. It's under the umbrella of InfoSight for global intelligence. It has all active architecture, which will come later on, and server-centric OS, which we'll discuss more deeply in the next slides. Now, this is one of the features of InfoSight, and I'm going to explain to you. They can see that this is a full process. It's not just a simple product. This is a huge product, and this is a game-changing product. Now, a process would be, let's say your InfoSight detects an issue. It collects data, it analyzes and detects that there is an issue with performance. Let's say specific performance, or your server is issuing an illegal SCSI commands. A case would be created. A root case analysis would be a root cause analysis would be created, pinpointing what is the issue. If the issue is fixable, the issue would be fixed immediately. A resolution would be done. And if there's a scenario where this could occur at any other customer worldwide, those customers would be blacklisted or prevented from doing this approach that customer have done, or to get this the issue in the first place. So let me put it in a real life example that we have faced in order for you to understand it even better. Now, we had a customer who upgraded his Nimble storage firmware to a certain firmware level. Now, at that point, InfoSight detected that automatically, without the customer even noticing it, detecting that one of his servers is issuing illegal SCSI commands. A root cause analysis was analyzed, and the issue was between the Nimble firmware and his VMware version that he's running. So this was a very new case. It was the first case to occur globally. At that point, level 3 support was engaged. L3 support, they were engaged. So in InfoSight with Nimble and Primera, you don't have level 1 and level 2. Level 1 and level 2 are already covered up by InfoSight. If you get a call, you'll get a call from level 3 directly. So level 3 called him within half an hour from the case creation, and give the customer a workaround in order to fix the issue of the illegal SCSI commands. At that point, the customer, he was not aware even that there's an issue. And in the background, they worked with VMware in order to fix the issue between that firmware level and that VMware version. Now, automatically, InfoSight looked at the database, it's a database, and found that there are 600 customers who have this potential issue. They can potentially have this issue if they upgraded the firmware of Nimble storage. And those who were blacklisted, prevented from upgrading to that level. Even if the admin comes in and he plugs in the firmware, he needs to upgrade, the system will not allow him to upgrade because it is blacklisted. So this is what we mean, that we see the issue once and we prevent it for all. Now, HP InfoSight, and in addition that it can be on the cloud, it can be embedded with Primera inside Primera. This is very much helpful when you have a dark site, because in order to benefit from InfoSight, you need internet connectivity between your site and the cloud. But what if you have a dark site? that there is no interconnectivity. There is a small, let's say, a minor version of InfoSight is embedded into the Primera in order for it for the customer to benefit from the analytics and the case creation. It will not create, it will only inform him to create a case because there is no internet connectivity, but it will do those things automatically for the customer in order to help him to have a smooth and enjoyable experience with the storage. Now, the structure of the system is a true all-active architecture. When I mean true all-active, is that volumes are accessed by every controller and by every port within the storage, whether it's coming from controller 1 or controller 2. Now, other vendors, when they say we have an active architecture, all what they mean is that you have a controller owning a multiple set of volumes. And the second controller is controlling another set of volumes. So let's say you have volume 1, 2, 3 being controlled by node 1. Volume 4, 5, 6 are being controlled by controller 2. So in this case, because you'll have, let's say you have a SAM protocol, the SAM protocol. So you have a Lua driver, multipath driver on the host, and the host, if the host sends the data to controller 2, controller 2 cannot serve it. Controller 2 can only direct it to controller 1, and then controller 1 can serve it back to the volume 1. In our scenario, this doesn't happen because the same volume is owned by both controllers. Because the way the file system, the internal file system of the storage, the way it creates chunklets on disks, and then those chunklets arrays created from those chunklets. It assures that each volume is getting access by disks owned by physical disks owned by both controllers. So this is an all-active architecture. This allows a very instant failover. Once there is a failover, the second controller can immediately take over much more faster than anyone else because it already owns the volume. While when we have the other approach, there might be a slight, a more slight, let's say, time for it to failover because the volume the failover has to move to the second volume and the path has to be rerouted again from the host to the volume. This is not the case in Primera. Because the path, all paths are active, all volumes are owned by both controllers, are being accessed by both controllers, so there's no issues with that. Given saying this allows it to have an instant failover. Now, a second thing with the architecture of the Primera is that it is NVMe ready. It has NVMe disks at the time. And NVMe front end will be added NVMe end to end by 2021 to the solution when NVMe protocol is very much mature. Because at the current stage, NVMe is a protocol. First of all, NVMe is not a physical disk; it's a protocol. At the current stage, NVMe as a protocol is not mature enough. Once it is expected to be mature within 2021. Where every vendor will know with which backend, let's say backend infrastructure it will follow, whether it's going to follow Rocky, whether it's going to follow TCP/IP, FC, or InfiniBand. So at that point, it will be much more mature, and everyone would know where to invest in. At the current stage, if you buy an NVMe end-to-end product, you'll get the choice whether you want to go InfiniBand, let's say TCP/IP, or FC. The point is, if you do this and you invest at this moment with InfiniBand, it's a perfect infrastructure. The system would work perfectly. There is no issue with that. But what if next year all vendors, as the product matures, starting moving into covering NVMe over fiber channel, or covering NVMe over Rocky? So your initial investment becomes worthless, especially if you invest in something like InfiniBand, which is very expensive infrastructure. So this is what we mean, that the environment is not yet mature for NVMe. So by even for example, for HPC, there is a company, Mellanox company. Mellanox, they create cards for HPC. Even for them, NVMe cards, NIC cards with NVMe capability will be released in 2021. Not in 2020. Now, a second thing, let's say, to get more into the approach into architecture of the Primera storage, the Primera storage can allow you to start with 2 nodes, and you can grow up to 4 nodes in a cluster. You can have up to 4 nodes. Now, each node has a CPU, single CPU or a dual CPUs, depending on the model, depending on the model of the Primera storage. Addition to that, you have an ASIC chip, something we call ASIC. It is ASIC chip. Now, this ASIC chip offloads some of the functionalities from the CPU. One of them is data reduction. Now, with this, the storage can deliver 1.5 million IOPS. Now, when we say 1.5 million IOPS, those are real numbers. Those are not marketing. Those are not those are not legendary numbers or hero numbers. Those are real life scenarios. You can go up to 1.5 million with less than 1 millisecond latency. You can reach up to 44 gigabytes per second bandwidth. And since this storage is built from InfoSight, there is no tuning required at all. It is optimized for every workload. It is tuned for every workload. The second approach in Primera is that we changed how the storage system itself is being built internally. Now, previously, you have many things being deployed within the kernel. So in an operating system, you have two spaces. You have a kernel space and the user space. Everything in a kernel space, let's say it will be built within the kernel. If anything would happen to that kernel, the operating system would panic, and it will reboot. And in case if you want to do an upgrade for a firmware, you have to reboot after the upgrade, because in the kernel nothing will be affected unless a reboot is taking place. Now, what we built in Primera is that we moved it from this kernel user space from the kernel space into the user space, and we created this as services. So whatever happens, let's say for any functionality on the service, it will not affect the operating system at all. It will only restart this service, and you're good to go. And with this, you can do upgrades to the firmware, even minor upgrades. You can do minor or major upgrades without rebooting, because you're dealing at the user space level, not at the kernel level. With all of this mentioned, HP is proud to deliver a guarantee which is 100% availability guaranteed. There is no special contracts for it, no restrictive terms, no downtime. If you face an issue and data access is disconnected from your host, you'll get a 20% cashback on the you'll get a 20% cashback on the storage. And we are the only vendor over there that gives you 100% availability from a single site. The only other vendor that delivers 100% availability is Hitachi Enterprise Storage, and they can deliver it with 3 sites, which we also sell in HP. But with Primera, you can have within a single site, we can offer you 100% availability, guaranteed. So what we have seen with HP Primera is that 93% of time saving is done. That your admins can concentrate on doing much more focused tasks that will benefit the business, rather than running after issues, fixing issues, rather than doing let's say analyzing performance issues. So all of this, which is being covered up by InfoSight, and the simplicity on how to manage Primera you'll get 100% availability guaranteed, and you have 40% lower total cost of ownership. With the on-demand experience, the system is radically simple to deploy, simple to manage. There is a 93% reduction on time spent on those activities with the Primera. It is very much integrated with HP Synergy, which makes it very much similar to approach when you deploy something from the public cloud. We'll more about that later with the coming slides. And you can with the GreenLake solution, you can have it as a service. You can pay as you go. With all those features, you can have a true on-demand experience, similar to the one that you have on the cloud, while maintaining the hardware on your on-prem. So the simplicity you mentioned, that 3% of time to be saved, is because of this. Now, you'll have 20 minutes guarantee that you'll have the system can be up and running within 20 minutes. From after direct deployment, once you power up, you can fix the system, make it ready to serve data within 20 minutes. You can provision anything within seconds. You can have upgrades within minutes. Now, the compatibility with Synergy is that Synergy gives you the option with along with OneView to create, let's say, with an API, with an integrated API, and with OneView, to create solutions and products, or let's say, solutions. So you can create several solutions within the Synergy frame in minutes. So a task which could take hours to complete or days to complete, it can be done with minutes with Synergy. And Primera is fully supported and fully compatible with our composable fabric HPE Synergy. Now, coming to the Green Lake, which I promise I'm going to discuss a little bit more detail than in the simplicity session. What we do in Green Lake is that we'll sit with the customer and we'll look at the environment, at his workload. We'll build at his bare requirements. We'll build a baseline. So, for example, let's say a customer, he requires, and day one, he requires 100 terabytes. This 100 terabytes, we'll deliver it to the customer free of cost. So he doesn't need to pay anything in advance. And we agree with the customer that we'll give him a buffer, let's say 10%, 20% above the 100. So we'll deliver, let's say, 120 terabytes to his site. He'll have to pay a monthly subscription base for the 100 terabytes. This is the baseline. And if he needs to add, let's say for a week or a month that he needs to use 10 terabytes, he can use it immediately from the 20 terabytes buffer that he already has there. What benefit this will deliver is that if you take it into a traditional capex model, an IT admin will approach and tell that we have a requirement for an upgrade of capacity. You have to increase the capacity. This have to go through an RFP process. First of all, he have to discuss with vendors. Vendors will have to understand the situation. Then it has to go through an RFP process. Procurement will be involved and getting offers from multiple vendors and partners. And then they have to analyze it, and then they release the order for one of the vendors. So this process is going to take two, 3 months at least. And then once you need to place the order till the order comes in, ships, and that's another 2-3 weeks. If you're lucky, it's going to be 2-3 weeks. What we are offering here in Green Lake is that you'll have the capacity on-prem, which you're not paying for. The extra capacity, you're not paying for it. So this extra capacity, this buffer can be anything, can be a server, can be a compute, can be a terabytes. It depends. It is very broad. It can fit in any solution you can imagine of. So this is how Green Lake works. Now let's say after 1 year, your requirement is no longer 100 terabytes. It's always 110 terabytes. So you're always paying this 10 terabytes as an extra. Now you can approach HP again, and we can adjust the baseline again for you. So your baseline will be 110, and your buffer will be 20% more, and this extra capacity is being added by HP. Now after 3 years or 5 years, you're not the owner of the storage, of the hardware, of the entire. You're not the owner of the hardware. HP is the owner. So once they need to upgrade the technology, HP will do it at its own cost, without bothering the requester, the customer paying anything extra. So as well with Primera, it is very well integrated with StoreOnce, with any backup vendor, with backup vendor like Veeam, Commvault, Veritas, Data Protector. It is very well integrated between the primary storage and the backup appliance, as well as you can use the HP backup software, RMC. You can use it as well, and data can be sent through StoreOnce Cloud Bank to the cloud for storing the backup for much longer retention. Now, the embedded engine, those are the functionalities that embedded engine can do, AI engine, which is emphasized embedded into Primera. It can do all of those, but you can say it's a smaller engine compared to InfoSight, and it needs to be upgraded from time to time to be synced with the InfoSight database from time to time. As well, you have a timeless ownership. So with Primera, with normal situation, if you want to upgrade storage, it's not, as we mentioned, it's not a simple task. It needs very well designing, very cautious upgrades in order for it not to affect the workloads being served. Now with Primera, the upgrade is very much eased. It's very simple to upgrade. It's very easy to upgrade. You can upgrade you can scale up. You can scale up by upgrading to a different controller. You can scale out by adding more controllers into the cluster. Now, as Nimble and as DSCI and as Simplicity, all licensing is all inclusive. You have the store more guarantee similar to the DSCI and Nimble. You have the 100% availability guarantee. The support pricing is flat. Upgrades is very simple to do the upgrade. It takes minutes to do the upgrade, and there is an option to upgrade the controller to a higher model. Now, those are the models that are being served by Primera, being offered. You can start small as 630 model. This 630 can be upgraded to a 650 in a two-node cluster. Then it can be upgraded to 650 4-node. Likewise, it can be upgraded to 670 2 nodes and 4 nodes, given that you can utilize the same disks. Same disk can be utilized. So the upgrade process is much more cheaper than any other vendor because disks are the same. Disk shelves are the same. You're only upgrading the controllers, which means the data being upgraded will be inline and online, non-disruptive. As well, you have the timeless option support, where you can every 3 years upgrade the storage to a newer generation, free of cost. So with this way, we are pretty confident that we have redefined the mission critical storage with Primera. And if you have any questions. 100 availability is data access. Data integrity. This will be covered. This should be covered by the backup by a backup software. So the integrity the data access is 100% availability. If anything, if data is no longer accessed by your VMs or by your servers for a reason from within the storage. I mean, not something outside the storage. Not someone comes in and disconnects the cables, for example. So it is for something that is being related into the storage yourself. You as a customer, you'll get a 20% cashback. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'll take this forward. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed Bakr. That was indeed a very informative and insightful session.